Okay. My book talk is about Unwholly by Neil Shusterman. The genre of this book is non-fiction. Okay. The characters of my book are Connor. He is the person that is in charge of the graveyard now, which we all read the first book online, since the Admiral had his heart attack and didn't want a heart transplant. And then Risa is a half-paralyzed girl that plays piano underneath a wing of the recreational jet in the graveyard. And there is Lev. He's the clapper that did not clap, and he's like a really famous person at the graveyard, and like everybody likes him. And then there's Cam. Cam is a person that is made up of like hundreds of unwinds. Like they got a whole bunch of different people and put them all together, and they call it like the super community. That's perfect. And then there is Starkey. He is a guy that he ran away from the juvie cops whenever they were taking him into the juvenile detention center, and he ran away and then ended up at the graveyard, and he like wants to take over the graveyard. And then there is Miraculina. Miraculina is a type that gets rescued by a rescue group that rescues ties while they're on their way to the harvest camp, and Lev eventually gets taken by them right before Miraculina gets captured, and there Lev is like the god. And then there is Trace, who is one of Connor's most trusted people, that he works for the juvie cops. And then there is Nelson, as you guys would know him as Officer J.T. Nelson, that Connor shot with his own tranquilizer in the first book. And he has turned into a parts pirate, which is a person that gets unwinds and sells them on the sells their pieces on the black market. And he is looking for Connor because he has heard that, well, he thinks it's a rumor that he's alive. And that's Risa, Miraculina, Lev, Connor, or Cam, Connor, Lev, Starkey, and Hayden, and then that's Officer Nelson. The setting of this book is in Arizona in the desert, and it's also on an island in Hawaii, and it's in futuristic times. Okay, there are like there's two like main ideas or summaries in this book. It's about many different things. Like Risa, she gets when a guy gets injured at the graveyard, and both of the guys were supposedly dead, as they call it. Well, they said, the hospital people said that they were dead, but whenever they go, they find out that she was in unwind, and she gets captured and goes, and Cam, like, he has these little tests of pictures and one time there was a picture of Risa, and he's always wanted to meet her, so then she goes and has to meet Cam, and she thinks that he's like a horrible thing since she hates unwinding. And next, that's backwards. Oops.
What's backwards again?
Next one. Okay, and then there's also Lev. Whenever him and Miraculina go to the mansion, and they're like, and Lev's the god, Miraculina, she like hates Lev because since ties always want to be unwound, and she just hates Lev because what he did, and he didn't get ties. And then since Miraculina hated it, there was a storm, and Miraculina ran away in the storm, and once she was like climbing up the barbed wire fence in the mansion, then Lev takes her down and says, and then notices that he doesn't want to be a god, and he doesn't like being worshipped as like being a god. He worships a god, not he is the god. And he goes with them, and then since there's a hurricane coming, they get into somebody's car. Next. And we don't know it's okay, here's a video.
It's not gonna work.
Oh.
Just click it.
I like blackness. Darkness excites me.
It might work.
It's gonna work. What if it doesn't work? Has anybody something worked yet? Mine has. Mine has. It does have.
Click the little playbook.
You did. Let's play again.
Well, it's not working, so
It's working. Hey, click on the play button and play
next.
Darkness excites me.
I'm trying to get.
Just go to the next slide.
You're much more long. You're on all.
Okay, and before I do that, I have a page that I would like to read, because you know how in the first book how they blow up Happy Jack? They all think that Connor is dead. So this is a chapter whenever Starkey comes to the graveyard and a bunch of new. With barely any blood circulation in his feet, Starkey joins a limping procession out of the jet's cargo hold and into the blinding day. What he sees before his eyes just seems more like a mirage than anything real. It's a desert filled with thousands of airplanes. Starkey's heard of places like this, airplane boneyards where decommissioned aircrafts go to die. Around them there are teens in military camouflage carrying weapons. They're not unlike the adults back at the safe house, just younger. They herd the kids that lose formation at the bottom of the ramp. A jeep drives up. Clearly this is the approach of someone important, someone who will tell them why they are here. The jeep comes to a halt and steps out as an unremarkable looking teenager in blue camouflage. He's Starkey's age or maybe a bit older, and he has scars on the right half of his face. The crowd gets a good look at him. People begin to murmur in excitement. The kid raises his hand to quiet them down, and Starkey spots the shark tattoo on his arm. "No way," a fat kid next to Starkey says. You know who that is? He's the Akron AWOL. That's Connor Lassiter." Starkey scoffs. "Don't be ridiculous. The Akron AWOL is dead." No, he ain't. He's right there." The very idea sends a surge of adrenaline through Starkey's body, finally bringing circulation back to his limbs. But no, as he looks at the teen trying to rein in the chaos, he realizes that couldn't be Connor Lassiter. The kid does not look the part at all. His hair is tousled, not coolly slicked back the way Starkey always imagined it would be. This kid looks too open and honest. He's not quite innocent, but he has nowhere near the level of jagged anger that the Akron AWOL would have. The only thing about him is that could even slightly resemble Starkey's image of Connor Lassiter would be a slight smirk that always seems to be on his face. No, this kid before them, trying to command their respect, is nobody special, nobody at all. Let me be the first to welcome you to the graveyard, he says, delivering what must be the same speech he delivers to every batch of new arrivals. Officially, my name is Elvis Robert Mullard, but my friends call me Connor. Cheers from the Unwinds. Told you so, says the fat kid. Doesn't prove anything, says Starkey. His jaw sets and his teeth clenched, and the speech continues. You're all here because you were marked for unwinding but escaped. Thanks to the efforts of a whole lot of people with the anti-divisional resistance, you've made it here. This will be your home until you turn 17 and cannot be unwound. That's the good news. The more he speaks, the more Starkey's heart sinks, and he comes to realize the truth of it. This is the Akron AWOL, and he's no longer than life at all. In fact, he barely lives up to reality. The bad news is that the juvenile authority knows about us. They know where we are and what we're doing, but so far they've left us alone. Starkey marvels at the unfairness of it all. How could this be? How is it possible that the great champion of Runaway Unwind is just some ordinary kid? Some of you want to survive to 17, but I don't blame you, Connor says. But I know that many of you would risk everything to end unwinding forever. Yeah, Starkey shouts, making sure it's loud enough to draw everyone's attention away from Connor, and he starts pumping his fist in the air. Happy Jack, Happy Jack, Happy Jack. He gets the whole crowd. We'll blow up every last harvest camp, Starkey shouts. Yet even though he riled them up, one look from Connor throws a wet blanket over the whole crowd, silencing them. There's one in every crowd, Hayden says, shaking his head. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we will not be blowing up chop shops, Connor says, looking right at Starkey. They already see us as violent, and the juvies use public fear to justify unwinding. We can't feed into that. We're not clappers. We will not commit random acts of violence. We will think before we act. This is my conclusion and recommendation. I recommend this book to anyone that liked the book Unwind and likes scary books. And then this book has like profanity and some horror scenes, kind of. So I recommend this to ages 12 and up. And this is my book.